Lawmakers heading back to Tallahassee and Florida's legislature preparing for the 60-day session. We're talking to local leaders in their party and looking for priority items for them during that time at the state capitol. Plus, dysfunction atop the Republican Party.
You're going to see a very consolidated and strong party in whatever form that winds up taking itself. I think you will see any indifferences being joined together.
The chairman of Duval County's Republican Party trying to stay focused on the ultimate goal in 2016. All on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us. Florida's annual legislative session begins Tuesday in Tallahassee. So joining us this morning, Senator Audrey Gibson, a Jacksonville Democrat. Thanks so much for being with us again. We also have Lake Ray III, House member and a leading Republican from Jacksonville. So as we get headed back to Tallahassee, I know there are various times that, just explain for folks, it's not all just you only work for 60 days. There's a lot of committee work and so on that goes on ahead of time. Is that right? Exactly. And we started committees in September. After several special sessions. Right. So last year we were only not in Tallahassee during the month of July. So, and we still will have committees a few weeks during the actual convening of session. So. Yeah, so a lot of background work, and I know I want to hear from each of you on your particular legislative priorities as we talk here this morning. But let me start with this. House and Senate kind of divided last year, eventually led to an impasse that led to an abrupt end of the session. The heart of the issue was what to do with the state component of the federal health care law. So it seems like that issue has to come up again. Will that be a sticking point as we get into session?
I think the issue was resolved with the House and with the Senate's position, the House position and with the governor's position, rather, last year. And that's that I don't think it's going to come up in terms of the Medicaid issue being resolved. I think that's kind of said and done, at least for the time being. But I do know that there are a number of health and Medicaid-related issues as it relates to Shands Hospital here in Jacksonville, and what does that mean for the population? How are we going to resolve it? Last year, part of the issue was that the federal government was not telling us how much they were going to contribute to some of the funding. And so we really were not going to be able to resolve the session last year on time as it was. It was going to necessarily go into overtime, waiting on those numbers that did come in from the federal government.
Well, and I heard from several folks on both chambers of the House or the legislature saying, hey, our main priority is we got to have a budget, and then these other things happen. But isn't there still a health care issue to talk about? Because we hear about federal funding for affordable health care and so on, and that the state so far has said, no, we're not going to play that game. Right. Yet. So we still have a problem with over 1 million uninsured childless adults who were going to be part of the Medicaid expansion bill that the Senate put forward last session. It was called FIX. There is no real resolution because those folks are still uninsured. And there's won't be a bill, as far as I understand, to deal with expanding Medicaid. And so we do still have the issue with UF Health Shands. Right. We're so accustomed to calling it Shands. Right, for so long. Right. For the low-income pool funding, which the federal government told us last year that this year we're going to have even less. So that means we're going to have to dip further into GR to make sure we can hold Shands safe, as well, UF Health safe, as well as some of the other providers who also get LIP funding.
Because LIP for low-income pool, you want to take care of those who can't afford health care. Let's talk some more about money. Budget is always big for our elected lawmakers, and the governor plans include some huge tax cuts, some record funding for public schools. There's a new initiative to bring jobs into the state, all this coming from Governor Scott. And all it may sound great, but I think the question I have for each of you is, can Florida afford it? Senator, let me pose that to you first.
Well,
sounds great.
It does sound great, and I believe that there may be some tax cuts, certainly for manufacturing. I'm very supportive of the industry and tax on commercial leases. The difficulty is whether or not it's going to be recurring.
And so, which makes it permanent. And so going forward, the projections that I've read is that we can't afford that number because the surplus starts to dwindle down to, I think it was like 222 million by the second year of the $1 billion cuts.
So you'd be in favor if there's a time limit on it, or
well,
if you were sure it was affordable?
To make sure it's affordable, but also to budget it in a way that businesses can still plan. I think that with the 2017 coming and the tax cut would be sunset, I guess. As long as we can project, look out for projections that businesses can still plan, it doesn't mean that we have to make it a recurring cut ad infinitum, and which could do potential harm to the general revenue in our budget, impacting education, healthcare, and a number of other issues.
Representative Ray, what do you think about the governor's plan? It's pretty bold on we're going to put a lot of money back into people's pockets and all these things.
Well, I think that we've had a long policy of working to do that, and certainly over the course of the last couple of years, we've been successful at that. I know that there are some concerns over the reach. It's a little bit larger than perhaps can be achieved, but through this process, we'll be looking at that, and I'm certain, as our good senator was saying, that there's going to be some issues over the reoccurring issues, or just how far and how long that we go with some of those. But I think at the end of the day, some of those policies related to manufacturing sales tax exemption, for example, and for the tax on rental properties. Those are two that need to be set in stone long-term, because at the end of the day, they are keeping people from wanting to come to our state. There's an immediate 7% tax that is applied to commercial properties. There's a sales tax that no other state other than California, for goodness sakes, has on manufacturing. And a few years ago, we had that. We want to look at making those permanent. The others are things, I think, that are going to be somewhat on the table, because some will be reoccurring, some won't.
Well, let me make sure that we've got a couple minutes left here, so about a minute each. If you'd give me some bullet points, what are the priorities for you as you go into legislative session? And Senator, I'll begin with you. Okay.
Well, personally, I have a couple of bills. One deals with opportunity scholarships, because it's been a tremendous issue in the community, and particularly in minority communities where the population in schools are decreasing somewhat in the fear of schools closing. And so it simply says that if you're a rising ninth grader or sixth grader and you're going to a school that's not a D or an F school, then you should go to that school and not take a scholarship to go somewhere else. Because you close a school, you hurt a community. So the other issue is water policy is going to be tremendous issue this session, and so I have a bill that creates a water oversight, policy oversight body to somewhat plan the way FDOT does with their 5-year work program. So this bill would establish the board, and including looking at projections of what water looks like, what water needs will be throughout the state, so that we're not having water wars every other year.
No thanks on the water wars. Agreed. Senator, thank you. Representative Ray, what are your top couple of issues there?
Got several that are on the table. The first was some funding for, ultimately for what we call our freight mobility plan projects. These are ones that connect to our port. It includes opportunity for dredging funds that would be in there. Basically what it is restoring funding that several years ago was put into general revenue, move those dollars back into the Transportation Trust Fund, and utilize those for specified projects that will be dedicated partly to ports and partly to other supporting features around our ports, including rail and things of that nature. The other thing is something I think is very important, and it's the examination of refugees that's out there. Everybody's got that on their mind, and I released this week a bill, House Bill 1095. The bill basically goes in. It enables the state to do some background checks as well, either in concert with the federal government or not, depending on how the federal government wants to work with us on that.
And this supports some of the, I guess, not initiatives, but the statements that governors like Governor Scott made
after the terror attacks in Paris and what have you.
What this does, though, is there's a little bit of difference. You know, some of the others have been looking at, and it's a challenge of the federal laws that have been put in place. This isn't a challenge to the federal laws. This looks at other parts of the Constitution and other ways of being able to get some
It seems like it gives some strength to what the state can do in terms of that last word. Is that bill something that you think your counterparts in the Senate or Democrats are going to support?
You know, the devil's always in the details, and obviously, as a state, we want to know and should know who is here and what their background looks like. I'm not sure that we have to do it twice, so I'll look forward to the details of my good delegation colleagues.
I've heard that from time to time from lawmakers. Devil's in the details. So, you guys, thank you for looking at details. So the rest of us.
There's no devil in these details.
Thank you so much, State Representative Lake Ray, State Senator Audrey Gibson. Thanks for the time this morning.
Thank you.
So, from actions in the House and Senate to analysis from someone who served in Tallahassee, the former Lieutenant Governor, and News4Jax political analyst Jennifer Carroll joins us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
It's the RV blowout sale at the Daytona International Speedway. Huge savings on new and used RVs. All the major brands from all the top manufacturers. Free admission and parking. The RV blowout sale at the Daytona International Speedway this Thursday through Sunday.
This is Pastor R.J. Washington of the Titus Harvest Dome. Join us on Channel 4 every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're going to have a God time. Yes.
In these hard times, millions of Americans struggle to get by on low wages. Their difficult lives are made harder when they do the work they've been hired to do and their employers refuse to pay them for some hours but not all, or fail to pay overtime when hours exceed 40 in a week. This is called wage theft. It's real simple. Employers take money that belongs to their employees. If you have questions about wage theft or overtime violations, call us. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Make tomorrow awesome with Xfinity TV from Comcast. Right now, you can get Xfinity TV for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with Xfinity On Demand included. Call 1-800-566-8080 today. Xfinity On Demand delivers thousands of hit shows, top movies, and more at no additional cost, so you can catch up on the latest episodes of TV's hottest shows anytime, anywhere. Switch to Xfinity TV for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with Xfinity On Demand included. Plus, ask how you can add HBO, Showtime, or Stars and enjoy award-winning TV shows and movies at home and on the go. There's no term contract and no early termination fee. Plus, it's all backed by our 30-day money-back Comcast customer guarantee, so it's risk-free. Tomorrow could be awesome if you call today. Call 1-800-566-8080. That's 1-800-566-8080. Xfinity, the future of awesome.
Put on your running shoes and let's hit the beach. Join St. Francis Animal Hospital and run or walk with or without your furry friend at the 4th Annual Chariots of Fur Beach Run and Festival, Saturday, February 6th at the Jacksonville Beach Seawalk Pavilion. Your support helps St. Francis Animal Hospital provide medical care to pets in need. Go to chariotsofFur5k.org for more information.
It's the RV blowout sale at the Daytona International Speedway. Huge savings on new and used RVs. All the major brands from all the top manufacturers. Free admission and parking. The RV blowout sale at the Daytona International Speedway this Thursday through Sunday.
Weather updates are now faster and easier than ever with News4Jax.com. The latest Weather Authority forecasts right here. Or use the live radar to zoom into your street. Weather faster and easier. News4Jax.com. Download or update the app today. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
A big week for thousands who haven't seen justice in rape cases. We're uncovering just how many victims of sexual assault all across the state have been waiting and waiting, including more than 1,000 here in Jacksonville. Nassau County's Janet Atkins introduced House Bill 179 to change testing deadlines for rape kits. Atkins' bill would establish a maximum 21-day time frame to submit rape kits, that is, for testing. It would also direct the FDLE to submit their own plan for clearing a major backlog by this October.
I was shocked. It's common sense that when this evidence is collected, you would expect, it's a reasonable expectation that they would do something with it, that they would be tested.
Janet Atkins told us she was saddened and angry at the same time following the announcement Monday by Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Their survey between August and December revealed 13,435 unsubmitted sexual assault kits collected and untested across Florida. The FDLE found more than 9,000 of them should have been tested. That's about 70%. Half of those untested rape kits sit in FDLE labs, the other half in individual crime labs.
We really can't identify any situation where it's not appropriate to test the kit. So I think that it's important that we move this legislation through. I think it's important that we appropriate the necessary dollars so that we can get justice for these victims.
You know, that's a stunning number. When we first heard about this issue, we were all surprised by it.
Atkins' reaction echoed by the top lawyer in the area, State Attorney Angela Corey. Corey's office has worked to get federal funding to run rape kits through testing and says that's one part of solving the crisis across Florida. In terms of a backlog, Corey says technology surpassed law enforcement.
It's just the nature of it. You know, I'm sure the same thing happened way back when fingerprints were discovered, and DNA is a lot like fingerprints. It's really only as good as your ability to prove that it should not have been there, and that's what helps you prove your case. So we just have to catch up, and we will. Sheer hard work.
Atkins' hard work in Tallahassee continues with the legislative session beginning next week. And while money is critical, this was Corey's answer as to how much is needed to solve the crisis.
Let the sheriffs and the police chiefs decide. They've assessed it. You know, JSO did an assessment of their backlog, and I think law enforcement has to decide what they need to get that backlog caught up.
Representative Atkins is pushing to have testing of the backlogged kits completed by June 2017. She says she believes that the new report from the FDLE adds fuel to her campaign for change. Obviously sounds like she's not alone in demanding some action there. Jennifer Carroll joins us as we look ahead to the legislative session. Is that particular bill, that sounds like something that could get a lot of bipartisan support?
Well, I don't see why not, particularly since it's now coming to it rear its head. I mean, we found out about this last year. But it's also surprising how much the cost is to test these kits, particularly with Angela Corey talked about science moving up. You would think that the cost would be less because we do have that science now and the technology. But the other thing about it is that some of these rape kits were not tested because the victims didn't want to move forward with the charges to go through that embarrassment.
The victims didn't
exactly.
Want to be out there.
So therefore, I think what was happening in the law is that it was unspoken what to do with the kits if a charge or the victim didn't move forward with charging the individual.
Exactly. That would be unwritten rule.
I think so. So with that unknown, what does law enforcement do, and what does the state do? And I think now with Janet Atkins' bill, since it's going to mandate you have to test these kits, they're not waiting. The law enforcement will not be waiting for the victim to step forward and say, yes, I want these kits to be tested.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit more about U.S. Representative Corrine Brown, but she was subpoenaed this week, but not a lot of information readily available. So let's put that on the sideline if we can for a little bit. Did want to ask you about this apparent power struggle going on with the Republican Party of Florida. It sounds like because Governor Scott's hand-picked person for chairman wasn't elected last year, Clay County's Leslie Dewar, that he said, I'm not going to raise money for the party. Sounds like the Senate said we didn't like how things were going, so we're not going to have our money there. So they're having some money struggles is what it seems like. Is that accurate?
Well, it's also unprecedented because typically the governor, regardless if it's a Democrat or Republican, is usually the titular head of the party. And in this case, we have a Republican governor that should be working with the party, as well as the Senate, working with the party to bring about more Republicans into the House and Senate and across the board of all elected offices. And raising money is part of it. Usually with a seated governor as the executive, you have more power and yield more opportunity to garner money. And so far, we've seen a separation between the governor's office and the Republican Party of Florida. But when it had a person in there that he supported or was working on his behalf, it was okay. And then he has a person that's independent as far as being the party head, wanting to do things to build a party and build a party from ground up. Now you say, well, since you're not working for me 100%, I'm not going to raise money. That is not the way you build party involvement. That's not the way you build grassroots. That's not the way you win national elections. Well, so I hope they come together and really work this thing out.
It is the way you say my way or the highway, as in don't do it my way, I'm hitting the road.
Unfortunately.
So stay with us. Jennifer's going to talk through the latest national politics. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
Prices are down, down, down.
Prices are down and staying down on the things you buy most at Winn-Dixie. Like Winn-Dixie sandwich bread, now down and staying down at $1 a loaf.
Down, down prices.
Prices are down and staying down at Winn-Dixie.
You're always in good hands at Dick Gore's RV World.
Dick Gore's RV World represents the nation's best RV brands at the lowest RV prices. Make certain you shop and buy at Dick Gore's RV World in Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
If you don't shop us, we both lose.
When one of our clients has been involved in an accident, they need our help. They actually need our protection. We are trying to protect everything in their lives, and that's what a personal injury practice does.
Give us a call. Harrell and Harrell. Don't settle for less than you deserve.
Take an extra 25% off your entire purchase during Bell's Spring Preview Sale. Sunday only, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 40% off Caribbean Joe Sportswear for misses, plus an extra 25% off. 25% off swim and cover-ups, plus an extra 25% off. 30 to 40% off Real Legend Sportswear for men and ladies, plus an extra 25% off. 40% off Izod Sportswear for men, plus an extra 25% off. It's Bell's Spring Preview Sale. Sunday only, take an extra 25% off your entire purchase. Great brands, great selection, great value. Bell's.
Can't wait to try these wings.
I know. And apparently the spicy honey barbecue sauce is so good, it'll change your life.
Yeah?
Mom and Dad, can I borrow the car?
Our son's in a boy band?
We have a son?
Life-changing? Maybe. Indescribably good? Definitely. The boneless wings meal with spicy honey barbecue sauce, served with crinkle fries and a small drink. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
One thing we can rely on in this house is UVerse high-speed internet. Yeah, it's super reliable for streaming the game.
And really reliable when looking up recipes.
Yep, super reliable.
AT&T UVerse high-speed internet. With 99.9% reliability, it's one thing you can rely on.
Celebrate the 904 weekdays on River City Live, a talk show where anything can and will happen.
Onward.
Local, fun, Jacksonville. River City Live, weekdays at 11 on Channel 4.
Prices are down, down, down.
Prices are down and staying down on the things you buy most at Winn-Dixie. Like Sanderson Farms boneless, skinless chicken breasts, now down and staying down at $2.50 a pound. Prices are down and staying down at Winn-Dixie.
I would have never expected a washing machine to explode.
Doing laundry, a dangerous threat? News 4 Jax investigates. This local mom's warning to you and the alarming reports we've uncovered.
What's it going to take somebody to get seriously hurt?
Monday on the 10 o'clock news.
Thanks for staying with us on this Sunday morning. A week from tonight, Democrats have another presidential candidates debate. Let's talk about some Republican candidates kind of sparring with the Democrats. I want to talk about Bill Clinton getting involved with Donald Trump here in a moment. First, though, this is interesting to me. Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio are the established Floridians who've got the connection in politics who are running for president. They helped out Governor Scott a little bit when Governor Scott was running for office. And then this last week, we saw Governor Scott say, I'm not endorsing anybody, but I sure like Donald Trump.
Well, they helped out Governor Scott a lot. Governor Scott won by less percentage points in his last race than the race before. Jeb Bush was out there raising money, as well as Marco Rubio raising money and on ads for Governor Scott to win this narrow election. So it's surprising that two established Floridians, one Speaker of the House, one former governor, did not get the sort of write-up and non-endorsement, so to speak, as Donald Trump received from Governor Scott. So I don't know if this is like, thanks for letting me win, but I'm going to go with who I think is a front runner and support them. But that's it, particularly in other races where the governor did not get involved at all, regardless if it was national race. He wouldn't. And to take a position so early at this juncture where we haven't even gone through the caucuses as yet is very surprising.
So
but the other side of the coin is, well, hey, maybe Governor Scott, who wasn't involved in politics until he ran for governor of Florida, maybe he can relate more to a businessman like Donald Trump.
Well, you also have a business person in Jeb Bush. He's been in office, but he's been out of office, and he's also been a business person. So why would you take a position over a non-Floridian? Yes, he has property here. Donald Trump does. He has a residence and businesses here. But you have two established Floridians that are in the state that have worked with you to help you raise money and to also help you get reelected, as well as Chris Christie. Chris Christie was in charge of the Governors Association, raised money for the governor, was on the platform when he took office. Right. He didn't get an honorable mention from the governor either, so that's surprising.
So Bill Clinton is now stumping for Hillary Clinton, and that got Donald Trump saying, let's talk about these issues. What do you think about this?
Well, actually, it was Hillary Clinton that brought Donald Trump into the fray when she said that he was not good to women. So the war on women issue was really sparred from Hillary Clinton towards Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said, in his old fashion, listen, you want to talk about war on women, let's talk about your husband. And since he's on a campaign trail for you, he is fair game. And that has really shut the Clintons down in really going after Donald Trump. So in a sense, people, the candidates have actually, the word is out there, don't go after Donald Trump, which I think is not a fair assessment, because if he does have things that need to be exposed, it should be exposed, and he should be challenged on the things that should be challenged, because voters shouldn't just vote for someone just because they appear to be either a bully or no one can talk about them or challenge their policies.
1 minute or less, Ted Cruz has really taken some steps forward in the polls.
I told you that. A couple times I was here prior to. I told you to watch out for him. And now he's the person that everyone is throwing jabs at, from Marco Rubio to now we've seen with...
Trump's coming after him, too.
Trump came after him, but most importantly, here you have a candidate was a prior presidential candidate, which is in John McCain, and the issue came up with his birthing right, where he was birthed and whether he was a citizen. Same issue occurs with Ted Cruz, but now John McCain is jumping on a bandwagon because he doesn't like Ted Cruz. So once you become the front runner, then all the jabs come after you. You throttle down like Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina. No one talks about you. So that's expected.
Yeah, there have been some unexpected moments in this campaign, and of course there will be more, and we will continue covering election 2016 for you throughout the work week with News for Jackson, of course, here on This Week in Jacksonville.
Got it.
Jennifer, thank you so much.
You.
This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time, and next week, two of the candidates for Florida for U.S. Senate, Republican Carlos Lopez Quintero and Democrat Alan Grayson. They'll be with us. I'm Ken Justice. Thanks for watching on air and online at newsforjax.com.
At News 4 Jax, we're always covering the news, even when we're not on TV. Stay informed, on the go, and online at newsforjax.com.